This week, we have two parshios. We have two Torah portions, the parsha of Achremos and the parsha of Kedoshim. What's the connection between the two? We know that last week we also read two Torah portions, two parshios, Tazria and Metzora. Now those were easy to find the connection. They both dealt with the spiritual ailment of tzaras. Seemingly, when we have a week where we read two Torah portions, it's a lesson in efficiency. We have more Torah portions, more parshios than we have weeks, so therefore we have to double up periodically. And we double up seemingly, sometimes it's not clear why these two parshios are the ones that are doubled up. Let's try to understand why Achremos and Kedoshim come as a unit most years. And I think in order to understand that, we have to look at the parsha of Kedoshim. The parsha begins with a commandment. Kedoshim tiyu, you shall be holy ki kodoshoni, because I am holy. God says, you should be holy because I'm holy. In other words, you should be godlike. What is holiness? What's meant by holiness? What's the concept behind it? We think of holiness as this ecstatic moment of feeling an emotional connection to God and to the spiritual. But what is holiness? When we think about the commandments, there are 613 commandments that are counted and listed in the Torah. There are many sub-commandments, but there are 613 root commandments. You think about the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu, be holy. That should be a super mitzvah. That should be an uber mitzvah. Be holy. Not just observe this detail, don't violate this commandment, but be holy. Seemingly it incorporates it all, encompasses it all. And yet, when the commentaries, when the codifiers of the mitzvahs list the 613 mitzvahs, they do not count Kedoshim Tiyu, they do not count the commandment to be holy as one of the 613, which seems counterintuitive. Why is it not counted? Maimonides answers this question. And Maimonides says in his Shroshim, in his roots, where he gives us the principles for how we go about counting mitzvahs, he says that it's a mitzvah kolelas. It's an encompassing mitzvah. This mitzvah, being holy, encompasses the entirety of Torah, the entirety of the existence of a Jew. And therefore, to count it would be counting a commandment of be a Torah Jew. That's what it's all about. So we don't need to count it specifically because it is the entirety, it's the heart of the Torah. Now, when discussing the mitzvah or the directive of being holy, the Netziv was a great rabbi, a great teacher of Torah in the 19th century. He's known by the acronym Netziv, Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin. When he talks about the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu, he quotes the Maggid Mishnah. The Maggid Mishnah is one of the earliest commentaries we have on the writings of Maimonides, the writings of the Rambam. And the Maggid Mishnah says as follows. He says there are certain concepts in the Torah that are not a mitzvah, but they're incorporated, encompassed in these general mitzvahs. For instance, he talks about the concept of bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah is what we'd call today the right of first refusal. If you own a property that's adjacent to somebody else's property and they're selling their property, you get the first rights to it. And in discussing this, the Maggid Mishnah explains that the Torah, the goal of the Torah was given with the goal of tikkun hamidot, of repairing and rectifying our character. And the way we relate to the world, the way we should relate to the world. And therefore, there are certain generalities of Torah, whereas the Netziv says there are certain mitzvot that are subjective. It depends who you are, what your state is in life, where you're going, because the goal is for you to rectify your character, so the mitzvah moves along with where you're up to in life. But now, when we look at the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu, we see something very, very interesting. The Torah says, be holy, and then the Torah goes to specific commandments that seemingly go under the category of being holy. It says, first thing is have reverence for your parents. Ish imo v'aviv tiro. A person should have reverence, should be in awe of their parents. There's a mitzvah we know in the Ten Commandments, kabed et avicha v'et imecha. Honor your parents. Honor your parents, the Talmud says, the way you honor parents is you prepare food for them, you give them something to drink, and so on, you do for them. When it comes to revering them, the Talmud says, how do you revere a parent? Don't sit in their place. Don't contradict them. It's don't. It's what you don't do shows your offer for them. Then right after that, the Torah says, "V'shapsosai tishmoru," guard my mitzvah, my Shabbos, guard my Shabbos. We know that there are two aspects of the connection a Jew has to Shabbos. There's remember Shabbos, which is what I do positively. I say the Kiddush Friday night, I say the Havdalah, and so on. And then there's Shamor, to guard Shabbos. This is what I don't do, the things I don't do. Right after that, the Torah talks about do not be an idolater. The first three commandments in the parsha that talk about being holy are don'ts. Now, if we go back to the parsha of Achremos, we see something very, very interesting. The name of the parsha comes from the word Achremos, which means after the death. Because it's the words that the commandments Hashem told Moshe after the death of the two sons of Aaron. And that's it. We're not told what happened with the sons of Aaron. There's nothing, no discussion. It's just, this is what the commandments after the death of the two sons. Why did the two sons of Aaron die? The mystical commentaries explain that they had this incredible deep desire to connect to Hashem, this incredible love for Hashem, and that brought them to try to connect to Hashem by coming into the temple and bringing offerings that were contrary to what they were told. They were not commanded to do that. They, in a certain sense, were violating Torah. And they felt that it was worth doing that because they wanted to have this connection. But ultimately, it brought about something negative. It brought about their death. Because it's not about your passionate feeling, it's about the discipline of Torah. The way a great Rabbi Nata Greenblatt, he should live and be well, once told me, he said, there are 613 mitzvot in the Torah, 365 negative, 248 positive. More negative, more don'ts than do's. We hate don'ts. We don't want to be limited. We don't want to be told what not to do. But Torah is a discipline. And there's a very specific focus here. So the first mention is, in this parsha, is about the sons of Aaron. They died because there was no discipline. There was great, noble desire, but it wasn't tempered by being guided in the right way. And what does the Torah tell us? It then tells us about Yom Kippur. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, speak to your brother Aaron, and he shall not come at all times into the Holy of Holies. The first thing we're told is don't. Don't. You know, it's very interesting. The parsha of Achremos talks about Yom Kippur. It talks about when you bringing sacrifices outside of the temple and forbidden relationships. 3 don'ts. But one is about the high priest, about the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. It's telling him about time. Within the realm of time, when can he connect? He connect on Yom Kippur. The next is bringing the offerings where the offerings can be brought within the realm of space. And then the final is about forbidden relationships, which is the person himself. And we exist within 3 realms. As a human being in the realm of time, the realm of space. So the Parsha talks all about the discipline and the limitations that we need to have within all these realms. And that's the Parsha of Achremos, which leads us into Kedoshim, into holiness. And holiness is a discipline. Because what's the goal? You know, Simon Sinek taught us, it's really not his concept as he says, but it's something that he made famous, that you always have to start with the why. In life, it's not enough to come up with a system and a plan. You have to have a why. A student of mine who recently has been floundering and not been able to gain any consistency in his life, and when I called him out on it, he said, I know I'm rudderless, I have no direction. I said, the problem is not you don't have direction. The problem is you're not deeply connected enough to the why of why grow spiritually, why become a better person, why work on your character. When you have the why, everything flows from there. Kedoshim tiyu, be holy. God doesn't just say be holy. God says, because I'm holy, in other words, my directive to you is become godlike. Become godlike. But there's a process to becoming godlike. The process is, like Michelangelo famously said, or some other sculptor famously said, when someone said, how is it that you take a piece of wood and you carve it into something beautiful and magnificent? You take a piece of metal or glass, whatever it might be. You make it something magnificent. Michelangelo said, no, you have it all wrong. When I look at the wood, I see the beauty. The problem is there's some dirt. There's some other things caked on it, and all I'm doing is I'm carving it away so that the beauty can come out. That's each and every one of us. We have this greatness and this beauty. Elokim asat adam yashar. Hashem made us straight where we can connect. We can have that greatness within us. Things get in the way. So you know what, Kedoshim to you, be holy. The first thing being holy is rid yourself of that other stuff. And as you go through the Parsha, you see continuously there's a negative commandment followed by a positive. And I want to point this out to you. It says, Lo tasu oval b'mishpat. Don't do a miscarriage of judgment. Don't favor those who shouldn't be favored in injustice. And then what? Judge people favorably. You can have a proper perspective when you get rid of the negativity. Don't be a gossiper. Don't stand by idly while your brother's blood is being spilled. Don't hate your brother in your heart. Get rid of all these negativities in action, thought, speech. Get rid of all that. And then you can constructively criticize your friend. Because criticism is a gift. It's a gift. We pay our coaches. The top CEOs in the world pay their coaches hundreds of thousands, maybe even more, to criticize them. Criticism is a gift. That's the way we grow. The problem is criticism can't be a gift if I have hate in my heart. If I'm gossiping, if I'm allowing people to be hurt, then the criticism from me is not coming from a good place. Then there's nothing good coming out from it. But if I get rid of all the negativity, then that criticism becomes a gift. Next, the Torah says, don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. And you should love it. You love your friend as yourself. How can you love your friend as yourself when you get rid of that negativity? When you get rid of all that other stuff, then that love comes through. That's what we're trying to do in life. That's the mitzvah of Kedoshim. The mitzvah, the all-encompassing mitzvah is use the discipline to get rid of the negative, and then the good could come out. First, we have the Parsha of Achrei Mos. The Parsha of Achrei Mos is a Parsha of limitations, of boundaries. You can't go into the Holy of Holies with all your wonderful intentions. You can't go in at any time. You can't bring a sacrifice, an offering, just wherever you want because you want to connect right now. You can't have a relationship with just anybody. There has to be appropriate relationships, the proper person, the proper time, the proper way. There are boundaries. Oh, you understand boundaries? You understand life's a discipline? You're somebody who's on the trajectory to become holy. And how do you become holy? Once again, don't. Don'ts aren't things that get in the way of our pleasure or our life. No, the don'ts are ridding ourselves of the things that should not be there. The things that shouldn't be there at all. Getting rid of those, then that greatness comes through. I want to tell you a story that moved me tremendously when I read this today. It's a story of greatness that came through. There's a wonderful Jewish community in Lakewood, New Jersey. Lakewood was a small town, and today it's grown into a tremendous Jewish community. And unfortunately, that Jewish community has gotten pummeled by coronavirus. Tremendous amount of people have taken ill. Many people have unfortunately passed away. And there's an older couple that lived in Lakewood. And an older couple, they moved there because their children lived not far from them. And unfortunately, the husband passed away a number of months ago. And this woman is all alone. And she's dealing with the devastation of losing half of herself, losing her spouse. And the one thing that consoled her is that Passover is coming, Pesach's coming, I'm going to be with my children. I can't have my husband with me, but at least I'll be with my children. And then coronavirus hits, and then to her horror, she starts realizing that she won't be able to go to her children for the holiday, for Pesach. It's not safe. She has to stay home. And not just stay home, she has to stay home by herself. The first Passover in her life, she'll be by herself because she was with family until then, and she was with her beloved husband until then. And now she lost him. Not only does she have to deal with the crushing blow of losing her husband, she has to celebrate this holiday of family all by herself. And she's devastated and she's depressed. But she doesn't know what to do. A few days before the holiday, she gets a call from her neighbor. Her neighbor is a woman who has a young family. And her neighbor says, I was thinking that you're going to be by yourself for Passover. It's so sad. We'd love to have you over, but we can't because it's not safe for you. But your apartment's right next to ours. Why don't you sit during the Seder, sit on the porch, Have your Seder on the porch, and we'll leave the sliding door to our porch open, and you'll hear as we sing. You'll hear the songs that my husband and I and our children sing. You'll hear the words of Torah. You'll hear the different customs and how we observe things. And that way you'll partially experience a Seder. The woman thanked her neighbor for this idea. She was not very enthused by it because she still was going to be by herself. But she had no choice. She said, at least I'll be on the porch near other people. Her children, with great trepidation after the holiday, called her and said, Ma, how was the holiday? How were the Seders? Fully ready to hear a depressed woman bemoan her fate. And instead their mom says, it was wonderful. I sat there, I listened to the Seder, and do you know that they sing all of Daddy's tunes? And they have Daddy's customs? And the Torah thoughts they shared were similar to what Daddy used to say. It was so amazing. It was like Daddy was here with me. It was like the family was here. It was awesome. What happened? A couple of days before Passover, her neighbor called the children of this widow. And this woman said, we want to invite her to sit on the porch and partake in our Seder. Tell us the songs your dad used to sing. Tell us what he used to do at the Seder. Tell us what he shared, and we'll share that, so we'll give her an experience like that. And unbeknownst to this woman, this family completely changed all their Seder rituals and customs to give her that sense of joy and connectedness. These are people who are truly those people who've rid themselves of all that negativity, so all that good shines forth. There's a story about another sculptor. Story, I've said this many times, I think it's so important, of a group of people who are in a college for the arts, and they're learning how to sculpt and how to carve. And it's the final day of their course, and they know they're getting their final. And sure enough, the professor comes in, and in front of each person, each student is given a large piece of glass. And the professor says, I want you to carve from here what you look like for eternity. So there are many different lessons to take from that. But the lesson for today that I want to take from that is, that's really what we're doing in life. We're carving what we look like for eternity because we're cutting away the extraneous, negative, unnecessary things. Right now, we're all home. And being home means either we're alone and we have to deal with the challenges of being alone, or with our family and deal with the challenges of being with the family. Either way, it's a wonderful opportunity to look deep in ourselves. What are the midot? What are the character traits I have to work on? What's the negative that I have to cut away? What do I have to work on? And when I can do that, then the good and wholesome and beauty within me can come shining out. And then I could truly be a holy person. Kedoshim tiyu, be holy, ki kadosh ani, for I am holy. So says God. And this is the way I can merit to be a godlike person. However, I hope that we'll be together very, very soon. I hope that we'll be able to daven in shul very soon. For now, all the local rabbis have come together and made a decision to stay closed until making a decision close to phase 2, which is in mid-May, and seeing how things are playing out. Hopefully at that point in time, with Hashem's help, we'll be able to make a decision to open. But until then, let's be together in our hearts. I love each of you. And let's work and grow together. So when we come together, we truly will be a holy unit. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and I hope to see you. Please come by over Shabbos. We'll talk outside with social distancing, maybe make a social distance l'chaim, or maybe I'll come by and visit you. And let's talk. Let's share words of Torah and growth and inspiration, and let's be true people of holiness. Good Shabbos.